What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants, powered by BetUSA. And today we are reacting to last night's preseason opener. The Giants came away with a 14-3 win over the Detroit Lions. Of course, all this week, a lot of chatter, a lot of fights. Giants joint practices with the Lions. They beat them up a couple times on the practice field. They beat them up once again last night on MetLife Stadium's field. It was a lot of fun to watch that game and see some of those young players really stand out. We actually got to see a little bit of Malik Neighbors out there in the first quarter. He didn't touch the ball. We're angry at Drew Lock for that, but still, it was exciting to see him on the football field. And it was a lot of fun just watching this defense get to work. These young running backs really stand out. And of course, I got to see some Tommy DeVito action, so I'm happy. But overall, it was a good preseason start for the New York Giants. And we just want to go ahead and kind of react to it, dive into some of the standout players and takeaways and stories from this preseason win. But before we dive into all that, make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the channel if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And what is your reaction to last night's preseason opener?
Man, I'm doing pretty good. I think that we saw a different caliber of Giants team last night than we've seen, even during preseason, regular season, whatever it might be. This was a little different. This felt different. The physicality, the pace, the momentum, the control. It felt like this was a competitive team. And now, listen, it's all backups. Yesterday we saw mostly backups. Neighbors had 12 snaps. He was open like every play. Drew Lock did not want to throw him the football. I think Neighbors, Neighbors, we know what type of player he is. He's a guy that commands targets. He wants the ball. He needs the ball. If the Giants do not get him the ball, he is going to make it known. He's going to make it heard. And honestly, I think that's what your WR1 should be doing. If you are a WR1 and with his talent and you're not getting the football, you should make it known. Now, again, one preseason game, nothing to write home about. I'm sure they're going to give him plenty of the ball. They're going to scheme him open. We saw very vanilla, basic route concepts across the board from this Giants team. The wide receivers collectively had 15 total yards. Tyree Jackson had the most production at the tight end position. Him and Tommy DeVito connected on several points. But the running game had 155 yards, and I think they averaged, 5.6 or 7 yards per carry. I mean, the offensive line, our biggest acquisition this offseason might have been Carmen Brasillo, straight up. Like, that might not even be a hot take. I think that's a pretty fair take, actually. The offensive line looked like they had cohesion. They looked like they had a plan, a strategy. It looked like they were going out there knowing what their jobs were, and we have not seen that for the better part of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. It's been a mess. It's been a disaster in the trenches for this Giants team. But yesterday, we saw a semblance of competency. We saw guys that knew what their jobs were. Joshua Smith, like this guy I don't even think most of you have heard of, right tackle, was a big component in the big Eric Gray 40-yard touchdown run. And by the way, Eric Gray, a guy that, I'll even say, I was like, I don't know if he's going to make this roster. What a game from him. I mean, he shut me up, I'll tell you that. I'm sure a lot of fans think the same thing. I think Tyrone Tracy, Turbo Miller probably have a good chance to make this roster. And, Gray may be the odd man out. He showed decisiveness. He showed speed. He showed physicality. He showed reaction. He showed open field moves. I mean, he put the whole lot on display yesterday. He had a beautiful over-the-shoulder catch on a nice gain, a couple of screen passes. Eric Gray had a game that likely re-injected himself into this RB2 situation. But by the way, Tyrone Tracy, he looks equally as impressive in my eyes. Didn't have that big touchdown run, but he was turning nothing into something. He had a couple of first downs that were really impressive. Fell forward for a 12-yard gain. Fell forward for a 5-6-yard gain, and he was breaking tackles. Yards after contact were apparent. His cuts, his vision at the line of scrimmage, really, really nice. He was finding the open gaps. I was very, very impressed by all the running backs. It wasn't just Eric Gray. It wasn't just Tyrone Tracy. It was Turbo Miller as well. All those guys look great. 155 rushing yards against that Lions defense, who have a pretty solid defensive front. That is a really, really good sign. And the Giants, they set the tone on the ground. They didn't need to do much on through the air. They had a couple of good moments, but of course you want to see Malik Neighbors do a little bit more damage. I think he will moving forward as we get Daniel Jones on the football field and obviously more targets in his direction. But overall, we'll start on the offensive side, then we'll go to the defense because there were a lot of good standouts there as well. But so far, I mean, difference, offensive line, night and day. Not even the same unit. I can't believe that the Washington Commanders went out and took in Bobby Johnson after what they saw him do to us. It's because it's a coaching thing, Anthony. I mean, I don't know if you agree with me, but it is evident that it was coaching changes. I know the personnel is a little different, couple different pieces, but most of these guys are backups, depth reserves that played yesterday. they looked well coached. They looked like they knew their jobs, they knew their assignments, and that is a vast difference than what we saw in the past.
No, I do agree with you. I think that the offensive line looked better coached. I think the defense looked better coached as well. I thought just in the trenches, the Giants won this game. And that's been their mission pretty much all offseason long, was to bolster their trenches in an effort to become a more competent football team. That's where football games are won, in the trenches. You build inside, then outside. The Giants have made that abundantly clear that that's their goal, is to improve the talent on the offensive line, improve the coaching on the offensive line, and also bolster the talent on the defensive line, and then move outwards into the linebacker core, the secondary, the skill position players on offense. So what we saw last night was very encouraging. It is only the preseason. We are talking about the Lions backups. We weren't seeing Aiden Hutchinson and all of the first team starters throughout that game, so we do have to settle our expectations at a normal level, but we can feel encouraged by what we saw. A couple of the changes that I noticed from the blocking scheme last night, Alex, and I think this speaks to your kind of point about Carmen Bristolow being a huge addition for the Giants. I saw a lot of halfback draws. I don't know if you noticed that. The Giants were mixing those in quite a bit. I saw Tyrone Tracy break free on one or two of those, and I'm pretty sure it was a delayed handoff or draw on the 48-yard touchdown run that Eric Gray ripped, which, by the way, what a run. What a move he put on that defensive back. Can't remember the defensive back's name. He's irrelevant anyway, but he is the defensive back that popped Eric Gray during the joint practices and knocked his helmet off. Got a little too rough during a practice. Eric Gray saw him, juked him, said, "See you, kid," and then went and scored that touchdown, got his revenge right there. I thought that was a pretty cool storyline, and also just an awesome moment for Eric Gray, who, like you said, maybe was battling for a roster spot, maybe just locked himself into a roster spot after last night's game, but all of the running backs were impressive. One huge takeaway that I have from this game is the Giants obviously let Saquon Barkley go this offseason. We don't know how that's going to unfold. Let's see how the regular season plays out. But right now, it does look like they have enough talent in their backfield with these three backups that we saw, plus Devin Singletary, to offset the loss of Saquon Barkley. Do feel a lot better about that now after actually seeing these guys in some decent game action. Because like you said, Eric Gray, very impressive. So was Tyrone Tracy. But the thing about Eric Gray that I really liked, he just exuded confidence. Every time he touched the ball, he looked like he had a plan. He looked like he knew exactly where he wanted to go with it and exactly what he wanted to do. He hit those holes quickly, and he hit them decisively. Really liked what I saw from him. Liked what I saw from Turbo Miller as well. That kid is shifty. He is just shot out of a cannon whenever he touches the ball. And then Tyrone Tracy, we knew he was going to be tough to tackle. We saw it last night. The guys just couldn't bring him down. He was a tackle-breaking machine on the 5 or so carries that he had. So really exciting stuff all throughout the backfield. And like you said, on the offensive line, I was very impressed. I thought that they did a really good job opening up those lanes, and I think a lot of that does have to do with the new blocking scheme that Carmen Bristolow is implementing, and I think that was kind of demonstrated with those halfback draws because you saw a lot of turning of from the guards into the tackles and opening up lanes in very specific ways that felt schemed together to me. So I was very impressed with the offensive line, and I know you want to talk about the defense in a little bit here, Alex, but I do want to talk about the quarterbacks first because obviously Drew Lock struggled last night, and there are a lot of severe reactions to that. A lot of Giants fans are saying, man, the 1 year, $5 million deal was a waste, and no way that he's going to be able to play decent snaps if Daniel Jones gets hurt. And what I will say is, it was only one preseason game. It was only one quarter in a preseason game. Let's relax a little bit and give Drew Lock some time. But at the same time, you guys know where I stand on this. Tommy DeVito is my QB2. He has been my QB2. So this didn't really change much for me because I've always kind of favored Tommy DeVito in this battle for the second string quarterback spot because I thought that Tommy DeVito, as a first year player in 2023, going on that 3-game winning streak, young rookie stepping in and doing that, winning primetime games, that showed potential to me, and I've always kind of felt like Tommy DeVito could end up being the Giants' long-term QB2. So to see him in some ways outperform Drew Lock last night wasn't necessarily shocking to me. I hope that Drew Lock is able to turn it around in this preseason and give us a little bit more comfort through his performances. But Tommy DeVito, I also thought he didn't play perfectly. It was a wet, slippery game. There was a lot of rain, and he was also throwing to like third and fourth and really, in reality, sixth string wide receivers who were dropping passes and everything. So, Tommy DeVito, what I liked from him, his poise, and his comfort. He kind of knew that he was going to be throwing to a bunch of backups and practice squad level players. And they had a moment in the broadcast where they were talking about how Tommy DeVito is actually telling people what to do in the huddle rather than being told what to do like he was last year. And I thought that was interesting just to see him kind of ascend into a more leadership focused role here as a second year quarterback and show that much comfort in 3/4 of a preseason game. I was impressed with Tommy DeVito, and I thought that he handled some of those things well. Definitely a lot to clean up. But again, talking about these quarterbacks, Alex, what is your takeaway? What are your first impressions from the first preseason game and what we saw at the quarterback position?
I mean, look, it's the first preseason game, so I think we have to obviously take it with a grain of salt. But Tommy DeVito did look a lot better than Drew Lock. Drew Lock looked lost. I mean, the offensive line was a little bit spotty to start the game. He was under pressure, but he did miss a few throws. He held the ball for way too long. He threw that interception that was ugly. For the most part, DeVito looked like the better player. And look, they have 2 more preseason games here, so we'll see how things continue to develop. And if DeVito looks like the better player over all 3 preseason games, there's an argument to make that I think that Drew Lock will be QB2 because they paid him $5 million. But if Daniel Jones gets hurt and if Drew Lock steps in and he struggles, I think that the leash will be pretty short. I think that they probably transition to DeVito pretty fast, depending on how Lock does, how he performs. But at the moment, I do think there's more upside with DeVito. I think that he should be getting the reps. Why? Because I think long-term he can be your backup quarterback. I think long-term he can be a cheap option there, and he can run an offense. He can be a competent asset for this team. We've seen him do it last year. He had a couple of really nice games, and there is lots of development left to be had. But he gets the offense, he gets the scheme, and Brian Dibble seems to trust him. So I do think there is something to that. They wanted Locke because of the experience, but again, the contract isn't that crazy. It's only 1 year, so you really don't have to play him if you don't want to. It's only $5 million for 1 year. You can just bench him, and you're gonna have to pay the money either way, right? No matter what you're paying him the money, you might as well try to use the best player at your disposal if you're going to go in that direction. So Locke has a couple more games to get into the right space, into the right form, and show some progress here. But for now, Tommy DeVito did make a nice statement for himself in that he can make some stuff happen. We know he can. Now it's just about compounding good performances, and he wasn't great. He was 5 for 18 or something like that. It wasn't anything special. He wasn't astronomically better. He was marginally better because the receivers really didn't get involved. But again, he's working with a lot of backups, a lot of guys that aren't going to make this team. The running game did the majority of the damage, so kudos to the running game there. But quarterback position, I think DeVito is slightly better, slightly ahead right now. But Drew Lock will remain the QB2 just because they paid some money for him.
Yeah, and I think that's a valid take. And like I said, Tommy DeVito did have a lot to clean up. I thought that he looked better, but again, it's only the first preseason game. I got to see how these guys continue to perform for these next 2 preseason games. And of course, the practice and training camp practices, all of that combined together. But it will be interesting to see if this turns into a backup quarterback controversy over the next couple of weeks. I am excited, though. It sounded like in Brian Dable's presser that the starters would play next week. He kind of said, we're going to play next week, while he was kind of breaking down the team in the locker room in a video that I saw, almost indicating that we might see some starters and maybe get some Daniel Jones action with Malik Neighbors on the field next Saturday afternoon versus the Houston Texans. So definitely looking forward to that. And honestly, only note that I have on the Playmakers, underwhelming. Other than the running backs, of course, we just spoke about them at volume and praised them. But those wide receivers, man, really struggled. Not a lot of separation. Malik Neighbors got open a few times but didn't get the ball. But then all those backup receivers, really not a whole lot to write home about. So before we dive on into the defensive performance, just want to take a quick pause on our video to talk about today's sponsor, BetUS Sportsbook. If you're into sports betting, BetUS offers the fastest payouts in the industry, and their deposit and withdrawal process, super easy and fast. They're giving a massive 125% sign-up bonus, up to $2,000 on your first 3 deposits, live wagering on all major games, the best betting variety, and hey, they even offer 10% back on your net losses twice a year. Plus, you'll get a 24/7 personalized service 365 days a year, and with BetUS, you can have your very own personal account manager. BetUS has the Giants at plus 400 to make the playoffs, at minus 600 to miss out on the playoffs. This is one of many of their great value bets that they are offering. Ready to start? Check out our BetUS link in the description below to get started. Alex, flipping over to the defensive side of the ball, Deontay Johnson, go ahead and talk about him. I know you wrote an article about him this morning, and you're really excited for Deontay Johnson.
Absolutely. So, undrafted free agent from 2023 out of Toledo. This is a really interesting player, right? He was all over the football field yesterday, my friends. This is a guy, and right now, I think Micah McFadden probably is the LB2. But if he gets hurt or he's inconsistent, he's not playing well. I think the leash there isn't that long. I think that Johnson could catch him because he's been sitting behind Bobby Okereke, and you're seeing flashes. And like that's the kind of cool thing about Johnson. He had some really good things to say about Okereke. By the way, he was like, "This is a guy I've been trying to learn from. Leader. He's amazing, and the way he communicates." He's clearly been taking lessons because you watch Johnson, he gives me flashes of Okereke at times. Yesterday, he was giving me flashes of Bobby Okereke, and I was like, okay, this is a guy that's clearly been watching this veteran and how he acts, how he goes about his work ethic. And that's really exciting because yesterday Johnson had 4 tackles with 2 solos, a sack, 2 tackles for a loss, and a quarterback hit. He was everywhere, man. He was everywhere. And that's really exciting because this is a guy that's an UDFA. The Giants rarely, and when I say rarely, I mean the Giants never get value from undrafted free agents. The last one obviously being Victor Cruz. I don't remember the last time the Giants had a genuinely good undrafted free agent like emerge and be a good player. Like I can't recall. This is a player who seems to be making pretty nice progress in that kind of respect. That's awesome because the Giants need to develop young pieces with potential. Now, we don't know if he's going to be good. He's never played against, NFL talent. Didn't play last year at all. He was a backup for the whole season. Played 3 preseason games. That was it. But he's got good size, good frame, good instincts, good vision. The new system by Shane Bowen is very, very friendly to him because he said it's very similar to what he used in college. So that's very, very good as well. It's very simplified. So I do think that if Micah McFadden struggles, if there's anything that the Giants are worried about there, Johnson could step in and be a starter immediately. I think that he's got it. He's got some good stuff, and I want to see him keep playing well this preseason because he might make this an interesting situation. I'm not going to say that he can't win that starting job. Just I do think he's behind, but not that far behind. McFadden obviously not playing does suggest that he is the LB2. If there was a real position battle, they probably would have had both those guys starting, or at least both those guys playing. So I do think that right now they do consider Micah McFadden as the starter, but I'm not going to sit here and act like Johnson can't catch up. If there's an opportunity for him to make an impact, and there will be, injuries happen. I think there will be a chance for him to showcase what he can do. I think he's going to shine, and I think he's going to show some really good qualities. The Giants have something there. They should keep developing that talent because I do think that he could be something special.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought that he really stood out. I thought that a few of the defenders really did stand out last night. It was an impressive performance from a few of those backup defenders. Boogie Basham as well. He obviously left practice earlier this week due to some sort of dehydration and kind of cramping, but we were unsure if he was going to play in last night's game. He played, and he played well. He had a sack. He had a tackle for loss. He had 2 pass defenses and the quarterback hit. So Boogie Basham was all over the place. Of course, a player that the Giants traded for at the end of last preseason, former second-round pick with the Buffalo Bills. He's supposed to be the guy that kind of plays behind Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau this year on the edge, more of their run setter, kind of like Jihad Ward was for them last year. They obviously let Ward go in free agency. Boogie Basham stepping in, pretty much filling up that role, and looked really good last night. I think that I feel confident in him as a backup edge player, and that was an area that I was concerned about. I thought that, backup behind Thibodeau and Burns was a little bit weak. Maybe not, with Boogie Basham really standing out in that first preseason game. And David Masua, I think that's how you say his name. He was also popping up all over the place. He had 4 tackles, played some pretty good football, and we talked a lot yesterday, Alex, about things that we were looking ahead to in this game. Defensive line on the interior was a question mark for us. Elijah Chapman, 3 tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 quarterback hit. Undrafted free agent rookie. Maybe he could make a push for that second starting defensive lineman job. What are your thoughts on Elijah Chapman and anything else that you saw on the interior of the defensive line?
I thought Jordan Riley had a couple of really nice plays. Chapman's been getting opportunities with the ones. He looked really good. Javarius Owen had a couple of really nice plays. He had that one play, like, laid out somebody. Tyler Nubin laid out a freaking lineman. I don't know if you remember that play. I mean, damn. The guy's got some strength to him. So Drew Phillips had a couple of really nice plays. He had a nice run stop. I think it was close to being a tackle for a loss. He had a really nice. Actually, it was a tackle for the loss.
It was.
So that was a great play from him. I know Deontay Banks had one too, I believe, early on in the game. So another guy that really stood out to me, by the way, Trey Hawkins. Really, really good day
Yes.
for him. Trey Hawkins had an excellent day in coverage. Nice tackles, nice. I mean, his back was turned. He read the receiver's eyes and put his hand there on a comeback route and create or back shoulder rather and create a incompletion. Really nice stuff from him. He looks really solid. I was very happy with that. Kind of a low key guy because guys, Nick McLeod injured, Cordell Flott injured. It's ridiculous. I mean, at this point, if you're the Giants, you got to be looking for veterans because Cordell Flott has been injured every single season he's been in the NFL. Every year he gets hurt. You can't trust him. Nick McLeod, he's been solid, but again, a guy that can he be trusted? Not really. Not much experience. Now a new injury. I think that it might be time to consider bringing in a veteran. I know there'll be roster cuts and stuff, so I'm sure they wait until then. But I do think that there will be a new face in that room within the next 3 weeks, I'd say. Maybe even 2. So we'll see how the Giants go about that. But Trey Hawkins definitely showed some upside there. Really, to me, for Trey Hawkins, he's got all the tangible traits, got the tools. It's just about being physical, stepping in, helping support the run, not being scared. He missed like 5 tackles against the 49ers last year, got a bench for the whole season, basically. So he's got to be better in that regard. I think that he will be. I think he's learned his lessons. Darnay Holmes had a couple of nice plays, just missed an interception himself. As you mentioned, Bookie Basham had a really good day as well. Sack, 2 passes defended, which is strange because he's a pass rusher, and then a tackle for a loss from him as well. So overall, I was pretty happy. Trey Herndon had that interception, then fumbled it. Go out of bounds, dude. Why are you turning back upfield when there's 3 guys in your face? Like, just get out of bounds. Save the ball. These guys, Anthony, stop. These guys need to just make a smart decision, man. Make the smart choice. What are you trying to score a touchdown from your 30-yard line? You're going to cut off field and then what? It's just a risk. Just go out of bounds, save the football. Just mental mistakes. Got to be better there. If you're playing in a regular season game, that happens. You get benched for stuff like that. So I do think that overall defense looked really good. They let up 3 points. That would be a pretty good testament to that. So I was very, very encouraged and excited about some of these developmental pieces that are clearly looking like they're trending in the right direction. Now, as the Giants usually face problems, it's about compounding good performances. You can't have one good one and then one bad one, or one good one and 6 bad ones. You have to be good every single week, or at least 80% of the time, 70% of the time. Like, Giants, they need to start doing this every week. They can't just disappear one week, have a good week this week. It's got to be consistent. So far, training camp's been consistent. Joint practices look consistent. Preseason game look consistent. Got to keep it going. Got to keep compounding on this going into the regular season, in my opinion.
In your opinion, and in the opinion of myself as well, the Giants need to string together good performances. Trey Herndon, I did want to mention, you kind of discussed maybe the Giants need to bring in a veteran at some point soon. Trey Herndon technically was that veteran that they brought in earlier this offseason. He had the interception, great play. Obviously, like you mentioned, he fumbled the interception away. Not what you want to see, but I will say maybe he continues to play well, gets another pick next week, doesn't fumble it. Maybe we talk about him being the CB2, but I got to say, I think Trey Hawkins looked great, and I have been mentioning him throughout the offseason as a guy that we shouldn't be sleeping on because he did play really well last summer, and he did win a starting job as a 6th-round rookie. To go into year 2, obviously a lot of growing pains as a rookie, but you do expect that for a 6th-round pick out of Old Dominion of all places. So going into year 2, if he plays well, if he continues to stand out all throughout these preseason games, I don't see why Trey Hawkins can't open year 2 as a starter opposite Deonte Banks just like he did last season. Now, I know that's not ideal. The Giants don't necessarily want that. They want to see Cordell Flott play well. Cordell Flott gets hurt a lot, and he's hurt right now, and that's been a cause of concern for me with Flott for the last 2 years. He's very skinny. He doesn't necessarily have the NFL build of an outside corner. He gets banged up quite a bit, and we're seeing that right now because he didn't play last night. So I like Trey Hawkins. He has an NFL build. He's strong. He struggled last year. He didn't make a lot of tackles. Give him time to grow. He was a rookie out of Old Dominion, for God's sakes. Let the kid develop. I'm really liking what I'm seeing from him, and honestly, I just think pretty much everybody on the defensive side of the ball played well. There was nobody that was glaringly bad in any way. And also, Alex, shout out to Malik Neighbors. He had a tackle. He was the one who chased down the defensive back that picked off Drew Lock, and he made the play to tackle him and make sure that it didn't go for a pick 6. So shout out to Malik Neighbors for that. But generally speaking, I think we've kind of rounded all the bases. But Alex, any other takeaways? On the coaching side of the ball, I will say a few things. Shane Bowen's defense lived up to the hype. He was supposed to be a great run defender. I thought the run defense looked excellent. And Brian Dable calling the plays, still managed to make some crucial decisions, timeouts, challenge flags, all of that stuff. And I thought that he looked fine, kind of hard to gauge in a preseason game. But any closing thoughts on preseason week 1 versus the Lions?
Closing thoughts. I mean, look, I'm encouraged. That was a strong, physical, resilient, disciplined performance. In the rain, nonetheless. We've seen the Giants in the rain at MetLife absolutely crap the bed, like every time. They stood up. They had a good day, a strong game. You got it. This is the type of team we expect, man. Like I said a couple days ago, you're representing New York City, you're representing New Jersey, you're representing these boroughs that he's got people going to work. They're grinding, they're working hard. And you go out there and not give a competitive performance, the people are going to let you know. They're going to let you know. Like we work all week. We have difficult lives here, and it's expensive as hell. And then we got to go and watch this team crap the bed when we're trying to get that little escape. Like, have some pride. And I think that they showed some pride. I think this team looks like they're going to be a little bit more, not a little bit, a lot more competitive. And as long as that offensive line plays decently well, the depth looks a lot better. I think we're going to have a much more efficient team here. Now, of course, I don't know how far that's going to take us. We still have a lot of weaknesses, but this team at the very least looks like it's about to trend in a better direction. We took a big step backward last year after a strong first year. Kind of been a trend for new head coaches and whatnot over the past 5-6 years or so. Strong first years, really bad second years, then fired. Right now, we're getting a third year with Brian Dable and Joe Shane. It looks like things are improving. They made some big moves. We haven't even seen we didn't even get to see Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon, Brian Burns, Neighbors in a much more comprehensive role, Theo Johnson, Wandale, or Darius. We didn't see anybody really. We didn't see any of our impact players, except for a couple of the running backs who will be getting some snaps. We didn't see Devin Singletary, of course. This team is going to look a lot different. Now, of course, we didn't see any starters on the other side of the football either, so there is that. But our depth looks strong. Like, that's a really important thing in football, man. Injuries happen every week. You have to have good depth. The Giants look like their depth is finally hitting a point where they're developing. They're showing progress. They're ready for the opportunity. And that's all you can really ask for. And, of course, it's going to be very vanilla play calling during preseason football, but all you want to see is discipline, physicality, effort, and the desire to win. And these guys looked like they wanted to win last night, and I think that's a big change to what we've seen in recent years.
I'm in agreement with you. I thought this was a really strong preseason performance, but again, it is just the preseason. I think we will get a better feel for this team next week, though, because the starters are going to be playing. At least that's what we're expecting. I think we'll see some Daniel Jones. Maybe we see some run from Thibodeau and some of these other guys that you just mentioned. Totally possible. But a strong start to the preseason nonetheless. The Giants won a football game. I don't know how many times we're even going to be able to say that this year, so I'm going to enjoy it right now, whether it's the preseason or not. So a great day of practice, essentially, for the Giants in that live game action. And we're only a few weeks away, Alex. 3 weeks, not even, and then we're talking about regular season. It's going to be a whole lot of fun here on Fireside Giants, so make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we'll catch you all on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.